Okay, hello everyone. Let's check the sound first. Let me know in chat if you can hear me well. Okay. How many people did we have on the previous lesson? $37. Okay, it's 24 right now. So I'm gonna give it another minute and then we'll start. All right. Okay, so I think we should be good. Now, we didn't have a lesson yet together, so I'm just going to introduce myself quickly before we start. My name is Alex Khvastovich. I've been in QA for about 8 years or so. I'm doing a lot of things, and I did a lot of things as a QA engineer. I started as an intern, then got to junior, mid, senior level positions in QA. Right now in management, but my current position, I am in a startup and where I'm single QA person and we're hiring. But I'm pretty much doing everything. So a little bit of automation, some management documentation, hands-on testing. So a lot of work with developers. And throughout my career, I worked in gaming, in e-commerce, in embedded hardware software. Right now, I'm in medical API field. So a lot of different things. And the thing that I've learned from all this experience, I can say that the main idea was the QA, that you can pretty much learn to test anything, right? And every product will be different. There will be some different tools, some different things you need to learn about the product. Even now, if I'll switch from one project within my company to another, I would have to learn things. I would have to, take some time, couple of weeks or months to get up to speed to understand. So QA is not like, you learn math and now you know how to do math pretty much. QA is more about understanding the fundamentals of testing, how to test, and then building that upon that in the company that you join. So it's quite expected anytime you join a company, doesn't matter how seasoned you are, that there will be a learning curve where you actually figure things out. And that's absolutely normal. And it's also a beauty of IT and programming. I think another thing that's different in QA from programming overall, when they're looking for a programmer, they're looking for a particular set of skills. So if you have a project in certain language, they will be looking for a person that knows that language. In QA, though, with automation, maybe it's a lot more like programming. But in general QA, I think the very first thing that they're looking at, how well a person fits with the team. So soft skills are very important with QA. And one of my things that I'm looking at, and I think that's one of the most important skills that QA engineers should have, is being able to do their own research. So when you're going to be asked during an interview how you approach solving a problem, your response should be, if I don't know something, first I start looking through the company documentations, try to figure out if that's something that we have, maybe in Confluence or at some other place where we store the company documentation. Then if nothing there, I'll do my research. I'll do a little bit of Googling. I'll go online and try to read upon the material. If there's no answer there as well, only then I go and ask someone, starting with your colleague, then maybe developer, and only then like management. So there's like steps you take when you try to figure things out and solve them. But being able to do your own research is very, very critical. Okay, so I think we have 35 people. We could start working on the topic. I'm gonna share my screen. And let me share it. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Okay, awesome. So today's we will have a set of lessons that will be around looking for a job and interview. The first one is more of a generic. So this is like this is something you can use today, in a year, in probably if market doesn't change too much in 2 years. It's really about the process today and like overall, you're gonna look over the whole thing how it works. Questions on like optimizing search, updating your resume, and questions related to more into depth on search and job. I mean, you can post those, but I would suggest you wait and ask on the last lesson, because there will be a lot more coverage in depth on job search and your region and salaries and so on. Also, even though I do cover the resumes part a little bit in this overall lesson, there will be a personal work with you when you're done with an internship, where you will have people helping you with your personal resume. Okay, so your situation will be unique, and those questions probably not going to help right now. If you're thinking about something on your resume, just hold on until the end of the boot camp, and then you will work with someone to have that updated. Okay, so is that clear? Okay, awesome. So today's lesson 13, and we're talking about interview, and this is the first lesson out of 3 that dedicated to searching for a job. All right. Now, so overall, how the whole process works when you're searching for a new position, right? You need to have a set of resumes, and those resumes normally would be, you can have one generic that is your best, your most up to date, right? But then when you're starting to apply to different companies, you need to understand the technologies. You need to understand what kind of QA engineer you're looking at, because I've been in so many industries, and I can tell you that testing games is one thing, doing localization is another thing, testing e-commerce is a third thing, testing like medical devices is completely different things, mobile games versus web games is completely different thing. So there are a lot of differences between things you will have to do hands-on as a QA engineer, depending on the product, the company they're in, who's the customer, right? Even like even if we'll take something as simple as phones, right? So there are special phones actually designed for like people with special needs, for example. So you might be testing those, and that would be different from like your regular phones, right? So you really need to know the company, and then when you have that, when you read through the position, what the company does, you can actually trim your resume, you do a copy of your like the most generic that you have, and emphasize on things that company is looking for. So if they're primarily focused on testing web, or the company maybe it's selling tickets, maybe it's a booking company, so you have to add things that you were worked in Chrome, you worked in web, you verified the UI, the things that will stand out and will be important for the company. Normally, I also add and have with the resume, I also have education, whatever I had, like certificate, boot camps, or college. Sometimes resumes go through, when you submit them, automatically goes through like filters, and if there's no like education present, it just kicks it out. It doesn't even get to a recruiter, a third party, to HR, whoever's the next person to look at it. So like the minimum requirements were not met, gets kicked out. So if you have something to show, you just show it. So everything starts with resume placement. You'll have your set of resumes for different companies. You want to have some resumes streamed. You might want to apply with your generic if it works and fits for the position. Once the resume has been taken, and that can go through LinkedIn, that can go through Glassdoor, Monster, Dice, whatever the search you're using to find a job. I normally look through the company's profiles on Glassdoor and LinkedIn, and I apply. Then I go to their webpage, I open their website, and I go to the career section, and I apply directly. So avoiding like recruiters and third parties, if it's possible, just sending the resume directly to the company's email if they have some, or a form. After your resume being accepted, you'll have a phone screening. A lot of the phone screening, like initial phone screening, especially if you place your resume on of more of like a search engines for the jobs, let's say Dice, will go through the recruiters. So recruiters will pick up your resume. They will have a list of positions available that they're trying to find people for. And if your resume is good a fit, they'll give you a call. So it's quite normal to have phone screening, not with direct representative of the company, but with a third party recruiter who will be like a buffer between you and the company. So he will get a cut of your pay. So you have to be aware of that. He has or she has a contract that says we're paying for this position, let's say I don't know, 100,000 a year. He talks to you and tells you, we can pay you like $40 an hour or 30. He gets the difference. The position is filled, he gets paid, you get paid, but you'll get a little bit less if comparing if you would apply directly. Some of the positions are never open directly though. So on some companies, because it's harder to go through the full-time hiring, you have to provide benefits, you have to, there's a lot of different things involved in full-time comparing with the contractor. So some of the positions are designed to have contractors and on purpose outsourced to recruiters. You don't have access to them through their webpage. I know that Facebook and Google, they're doing a lot of contracts. They're hiring Apple, they're hiring a lot of contracts. So then they don't have to have full-time employees. They don't have to provide the stocks, dividends, the healthcare, and so on. But they just have a third party that brings them contractors for certain work. This work can last months and years sometimes, but it's not just like a full-time position. Still considered to be a contract. So first thing, resume is placed. Then you have a phone screening. Normally, if you place it on the search aggregator for jobs like Dice, you'll have recruiter calling you. And phone screening is technically, just see like a small talk, pretty much. See what is your experience, what you did before, what is your knowledge, more of a conversation about you to see if the person on the other end actually knows what they're talking about. Are they fit to work with other people? It's pretty, pretty generic stuff. Now, next, you will have technical screening. Technical screening right now could be as part of, we all live in COVID, so everything is online. There's really not much face-to-face, or face-to-face is considered to be not on site, but via Zoom, or how we're doing it right now, right, via video. But with technical screening, what normally I see right now, you would have technical assignment sent out, and that could be some questionnaire, that could be some how would you test this kind of thing, that could be asking about terminology. Sometimes that could be like a small, even like coding challenge if you're going for higher positions, not manual QA, like some automation or some gray box testing involving API and stuff. So that's possible, okay? But most commonly for the interview, for black box for UI verification. It's just differences between different type of testing, how to perform a regression, what a bug life cycle, maybe some higher level technical questions, and I mean looking at the code or stuff like that, but nothing too like crazy. But still, it's a technical screening. So expect either like an assignment sent out that you'll have maybe a couple weeks to complete, and the assignment could be timed. So let's say they send you some link, you access it, and once you start, you'll have 3 hours, 2 hours to finish it up. Or it could be just a technical person on the phone with you from the company. Maybe he is a developer, or he's the lead, team lead, or QA manager that will be talking about things in the industry. Will we get assistance? Yes, you will get assistance from carriers. But so again, a lot of interviewing process is just the process you have to go through. A lot of it is actually so it's a case when quantity becomes quality. In order to be able to pass the interview, soft skills and confidence and talking about knowing things is important. So it actually takes some practice. So at some point you might need to just do 100 interviews until you get to the point that you kind of know what's on the market right now, what general questions are, and you're confident with your answers. And you know that you have to be a team player, you have to be positive, interested in the product, read about the company. So interview process, again, job in itself, I mean, it's not a trivial process, right? It's a life-changing experience. You're going to have a career now that pays well. So there is some work that you need to do in order to get it. Okay. And it involves a lot of repetition and going through many interviews and essentially, getting comfortable with the process. Okay. So after the technical screening, you'll have face-to-face. And right now, again, there's not much of face-to-face going on because of the COVID, and everyone's working from home, even for like manual stuff. Unless you work or you apply to the company that works with a hardware hands-on, like you have to move stuff around, you have to reconnect things. Maybe it's connectivity for, I don't know, phones or whatever. Could be anything. Then of course it's going to be on site, and you'll be expected to get to work on site, right? And the interview most likely going to be on site. But the face-to-face interview is when you actually talk with the team. And the process for the face-to-face interview, it could be different. I'll give you a couple of scenarios that I've seen, and I think everything is variation of that. So face-to-face can be with one person, which is like a manager or lead that will be deciding, okay, do you fit the team or not? Could take a couple hours or hour and a half, just conversation, talking about what you did, what you will be doing, why this position interests you, and so on. One scenario. Another scenario, you might have like a 5 or 4 hour, 3 hour interview where you have a group of people, all your future teammates, and maybe some devs or maybe some even HR that will be interviewing for half an hour or so. So you'll have breaks, and different people will be interviewing you again and again and again. Those types of interview are quite interesting, and even though they're the longest one, I find them the easiest because it's funny how it works. You'll have people that interview you one by one. You're not in the same room together or not on call at the same time, and they ask the same questions. So person one would come, they ask for half an hour, you talk. Person two comes and they ask. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's pretty much the same thing over and over again, which is kind of funny. So that's not a type of face-to-face. And the third type of face-to-face one, you'll have, again, multiple team members. It's going to last about an hour and a half or so. Everyone going to be present on the call together, and you will have a roundabout of questions. So one person will ask a couple questions, you'll answer. Then another person will ask a couple questions, answer, and another person will ask a couple questions, you answer. So now questions most likely not going to repeat because everyone hears what they're asking, and it's somewhat a mix. It's a mix of like some a little bit of technical stuff, some of behavioral questions. Soft skills are important again. How will you fit? How positive? How much energy you have? Are you willing to learn the product? Do you like the product, the idea overall? How are you going to manage conflicts, and stuff like that? Are you a likable person to work with? So it's a mix. It's really a bag of mixed questions, and they can vary greatly. And once you're done with that interview, then you'll have a form of negotiation. Could be with HR, could be with HR plus management in terms of your salary, what kind of benefits, there's a sign-up bonus or different things that how much stocks or options you're getting, what other forms of compensation pretty much besides your salary or payout. Now, for those who are in contract, you're most likely just going to talk about salary, not options or insurance. Now, with contract, though, there is one benefit. When you work full time, you pay everything in advance. You just work for most likely will work on W-2 form, which takes out taxes automatically out of your check, which in the end kind of leaves less money for you throughout the year. Now, with contract, you get everything on hands and then you pay the taxes at the end yourself, which can be beneficial. Normally, how I've seen people doing it, someone in the family works as a full-time, and the company provides insurance, and the other person is looking for a contract job, so they would have more immediate income that they can use. I mean, you still have to pay taxes. It's just at the end of the year. All right, and then your goal is fulfilled. You're getting hired. This is the funnel, right? This is the steps you'll have to go through in order to get the position. Okay, is this clear? Are there more remote positions now? Oh, definitely a lot more remote positions. Like people hiring for remote right now like crazy. Okay. So now the fun part, how to search. All right. So how do you get to actually, your goal? You need to apply. You need to apply a lot. Everything starts with multiple submissions, and you just repeating the process many times and going through interviews again and again and again and again. On average, takes about 200 resume submissions. So you need to organize your job search in order to be successful. You keep on applying on multiple positions every day. Now you start getting 3-4 calls a day from different people, and you have no idea who is that calling, when did you apply, what kind of version of your resume they have. So it's very critical that you create a Google spreadsheet or Excel, whatever, where you're going to list all of the jobs where you applied, the position title, company website, date that you applied. So you have those fields in your spreadsheet, right? 3 columns here. Also, you ideally want to mention what kind of version of resume in another column that you send. So resume A or resume B, name it however you want. Can have a job description, or maybe just add in notes what it was all about. Maybe, okay, this is Apple or this is Google. I'm applying to Facebook, something like that. How you applied, so pretty much where you found them. Found them on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, friend told me, and who you talk to. So third-party recruiter, HR recruiter on site. I mean, you can expand this. You can expand in a possible full-time position, like let's say a contract type, the length of the contract. There's a lot of things you can add there, but as long as you have the job title, the company, date applied, who you talk to, the person on the phone, so you know them by name when they call next time. So you have track and understanding where you stand, and the resume version, where you stand with your search. Because at some point, well, you start applying to multiple companies, you'll start getting multiple calls, and there might be Mike from Microsoft and there might be Mike from Apple. So you start conversation about the position, and then 2 minutes later you realize you've been talking about joining Microsoft, the guy who's calling you from Apple. You don't want to do that. So it's important to keep track on who you're applying with. You might even record another column, the phone number of the person that you've talked to understand who's calling you from what company. Okay, does that make sense to you? Does Careers help with recruitment? So we do help. I don't think directly. So I'm not aware of the full process, but I know there is help with the resumes, and there is internship, and then there's help with job search. In terms of recruitment, internship probably is part of it, right? But then I don't know the whole details of further assistance in the recruitment. Do you think that even when the pandemic is over, there will still be remote positions? Yeah, it looks like people got really comfortable working from home. A lot of people in tech are not willing to go back. And I know that, at least I've heard from some people working in the bigger companies like Google, and so you can accept permanent remote position. They will have a little bit of your salary reduced based on your region, especially if you moved out, but you can have like a full-time remote position forever. So that's the benefit of working in IT, right? Some companies, I guess, can't afford that or won't be able to do that because of different factors, like especially if you're you're moving stuff around, or you have to install things, and I don't know, build up test beds or whatever that might be the case. So you have to be physically in office or your testing site, whatever that thing, the testing happening. But others are willingly having full-time remote jobs, especially if you're like verifying e-commerce, so web pages, things that purely just software, like apps, stuff like that. Hmm. Can we submit resumes to coaches of carries since they are 2A, and if there's match, it can benefit? So I think this personalized resume work will be more part of your completed bootcamp at the end of the internship. So that's when you'll have more personal work on your resumes. Okay, so remember that it takes a lot of tries and applications and conversations to get a job, and that's normal. That's expected. Some people are lucky; they will land a job in 2-3 calls. Others will have to do 200 calls. So that's just how it is. And it's not about you. It's not about your resume. It's not. It's more of probability. There are a lot of people applying other people. There's so many factors involved. Price that recruiters offering, right? So maybe someone wants to work for cheaper, and recruiters happy with that. Maybe the product and overall experience, previous experience. So there are a lot of factors. I wouldn't stress, if you get a no as a reply, because every no gets you closer to a yes. So I wouldn't worry about any rejections. Just keep on moving. What is salary task for? So this is a conversation. I'll talk probably about it briefly, but this is going to be a wider conversation based on your region, where you're searching, and that's going to be in part 3 of this series. All right. And keeping track, right? Keeping track is important of people you talk to, their positions, and the resumes, and the companies and dates. Okay. All right, let's move to the next slide. Okay. So how to search? I mean, if you're if you're dedicated and you have time, right? Some people are doing this as part-time, or they have time, they don't want to switch immediately. Maybe they have another job, but they're just moving towards the QA. Other people are desperate and they want to do it right now. I mean, that's it. That's their main goal. They're so focused. There's nothing else. There's no kids, no parents, no brothers or sisters. They're just alone in their apartment and just laser focused. I'm gonna do this, right? So, um, if you want faster, better results, you have to do more applications. So submit 30 resumes a day, right? This is a number that's adjustable to your situation. And again, the amount of response, how many responses you're getting. So if you submitted 30 and you got 30 responses, you're not going to be able to keep up. Like if you're like, okay, everyone wants to hire me, then you can slow down. If you're submitting 30 and you're getting 2-3 responses, then you might want to talk to your coach about the resume, take a look wider, not so many responses. But you just have to be comfortable with the amount of conversation you're going to have per day. And if it's 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and it works for you, so keep the same amount of resumes. Start with 30 submissions a day, and then see how it works for you, so you can adjust. So it's comfortable for you to move in that pace. You don't want to apply on Fridays, Saturdays, holidays, right? Unless you see a job just been posted just today, a couple hours ago, and you're one of the first applicants that do it. Otherwise, if it's sitting there for a while, because there are people and on the other end, a lot of times there are people on the other end. So you're submitting something Friday night, they're like, yeah, I looked at it, they're gonna check mark and say, doesn't fit. Move it out of the way. Maybe because they're tired at the end of the day and they don't really want to look through it. So it's just keep it in mind. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and don't apply on holidays. Again, the only time you want to apply on Friday or weekend, if you see a job being posted like today, this very day, then you can do it. You also don't want to miss November and January. You want to actively search during those. If you're giving your time, okay, I'm gonna go through this boot camp, I'm gonna learn stuff, I'm gonna pick up some maybe other topics from IT and QA on my own. So you're just preparing yourself until you're ready. You better be ready by November because otherwise you're gonna miss out on there are certain hiring times during the year when the year closes, the new stars, the budget's ready for new hires. You don't want to skip that because you'll have a lot of missed opportunities. Even if you think that, okay, I'm not ready yet, either mentally or technical skills, you're thinking, okay, I need to work still on my, I don't know, whatever, English, whatever you think is stopping you, doesn't matter. If it's November, start applying like crazy because you might miss an opportunity. Those months is from November to January, and from May to June are very hot to search for a job. Okay. And again, don't get discouraged. Job hunting is hard, but every no gets you closer to a yes. Any questions about that? Awesome. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about phone screening. So phone screen again is very generic. It's not, it's not like phone screen going to determine are you getting a job or not. Recruiter just most likely is going to be with the recruiter. So recruiter just want to talk to you. They want to learn about you. Some recruiters might even ask you, how much do you want on the phone screen, and then we will have more conversation about it. But typically, your response should be, I'm looking at the market rates for my area, and I looked at, for example, Glassdoor. Right now, they're paying QA engineers here in my area about $60 an hour, and that's what I want. Okay, and then you can negotiate from there. But this is only with recruiters. They will ask about salary and stuff very, very quickly, right? Especially if they think that you're gonna fit for the position. Only third-party recruiters, because for them it's important to kind of fix that amount so they know how much they're getting. So and then you don't move that amount much, or you shouldn't be moving that amount later on when company actually hires you. With full-time employment, the recruiters that are not third party are actually representing the company or the HR that was in the company that you're going to work for. Then that conversation going to be later in the interview process. So phone screening is a short 20 to 30 minutes conversation, right? Usually with a third party recruiter, or if this is more of a full-time position, HR or recruiter that works for the company. Sometimes the phone screening is assigned if the company is small, it's a startup, they don't have a lot of resources, or the hiring process is still not, streamlined. It's just like other members hiring other members. You might have a call phone screening from another QA engineer or a developer or like a manager. Not really HR or a recruiter, someone who works for the company. It's not often that it happens, but it happens. We'll usually have two phone screens, one was recruiter and one was HR, or the phone screen was recruiter does not count as a formal process of the phone screen. Normally, you have a phone screen with a recruiter. Then you have another phone screen with someone from the company, like a team lead or QA manager. And then you have an interview with the team. Sometimes you're just going to have a phone screen with a recruiter. He is going to send your resume. You're going to send him the resume. He is going to send, or she's going to send the resume to the team. They'll look over the resume. They like you. And then they bring you for initial screening, like conversation, which is not part of the phone screen. How do you explain a gap in the job? Different results. Could be personal. You can say I was pursuing a higher education, or I was having sabbatical, I had kids. It's every situation is personal and different. That shouldn't be discriminated upon, especially if you have training and you said I've been doing boot camp, I've been preparing, or that shouldn't be showstopper. People don't always work all their lives. There are other things that happen, right? So how the phone screen normally goes. So there's introduction. There's like, hey, let's talk about my name is whatever name of the recruiter. I work for whatever company. I have this position available. I found your resume here and here. You have time? Can we talk? And then you say, yes, sure. Yes, that's my resume. My name is, I'm doing this. And, so conversation kind of starts. Quite often they ask, tell me about yourself, tell about your experience, tell about your work, what you've been doing, or why you're doing QA. So it's just like a formal conversation. Think about it. What would you answer if you were talking to, a friend in the field that's trying to get your job? Because a recruiter, especially, third-party recruiter especially, they're very interested that you get hired, because if you get hired, they get paid. All right. So I've been talking to recruiters that actually helped preparing for the on-site interview with the team, telling me what kind of questions they will ask. What kind of what to expect on the interview. So they are willing to if they see the potential that you're going to get hired, they are willing to help you tremendously to get hired. So because they're getting paid, right? They get part of your check or your salary. You get the contract, they get difference, but yeah, they want you to get hired. So tell me about yourself, tell about your work experience. Then there's a short overview of technologies you're familiar with and your skills. And then they try to match those with what they search for. Normally it's a couple of things, just two, three things. Let's say e-commerce, the web testing, right? We're looking. This company is looking for a QA person that is comfortable with testing, let's say, online casino games like gambling stuff. Have you ever tested like that before? What's your experience? Was that? It's really just a couple of things in terms of the technology that they're looking for. They know, normally third-party recruiters know what is being searched for. Now, another thing is you want to move from the recruiters and tell them, if they're asking, they just say yes. You want to move on further to work, to talk with the team and really understand what the team wants. Because a lot of times what's actually happening, so some recruiters know, but there are third-party recruiters that just kind of spamming. They have like a default layout with all the skills that match like your position, and it's like knowing 5 programming languages and being in the field 10 years. It's just like you look at it, it's like nonsense. It's crazy. You're asking like for God knows what, for what, like $30 an hour. It's something insane. So that those requirements are not real. I mean, the recruiter doesn't really know what they're doing. They're just spamming candidates, trying to get as many possible positional fields. When you have something like that, you just really want to get the on-site interview and talk with the team. And then when you talk with the team, they like you, they hire you, and you end up like testing web page, like for filling out, I don't know, tickets to buy plane tickets, right? Something like that. So you have to be aware of it. So don't get scared by ridiculous descriptions. A lot of them are fake. And if recruiters know what they're looking, what is being looked in the candidate, right? What type of technologies? It's normally like 2-3 things. So this company is actually online casino. Have you ever dealt with that? Have you ever played online casino games? Have you tested something like that? Are you legally, can you do that legally and stuff like that, right? So if they know, they will know, and they will tell you that they know. Those are like 3 things they're looking for. If they don't know, you'll have like a list of requirements that is just you can go on Google and copy paste the first one. They're all the same. It's just 50 things on it, which doesn't make any sense. All right, 2 years of gap in my job hunting, on my career, does it affect job hunt? I don't think so. I mean, you can always say I've been doing other stuff, and I've been doing things on the side while I've been doing other stuff that are related to this position. So it shouldn't be a problem. Where is a take a phone number company, not recruiter? I don't understand that question. Where is a take a phone number? What do you mean by that? Tell me about yourself. Would we talk about job experience and do not relate to QA? If we never worked in QA position, for example, would we only talk about our experience with this course? You can always answer this question that you're interested in the QA field, you're passionate about it, you really like it. You even took the boot camp. I mean, and then you can talk about things you've been testing on the boot camp. It's this question is not, again, this is not to get you out. It's just to see if you're a reasonable person that someone can have a conversation with. It's to kind of check out and kick out all of the crazy people, right? So it's not really about your job experience, if that's what you're asking. Do you think it's better to apply direct to the company or through a third party? I mean, if you're looking for a full-time position, applying directly through the company will give you more chances of getting full-time position. So going to the web page, finding a position online, then finding that company, finding their webpage, going to their careers in their webpage and applying through that, you have a higher chance of getting full-time. If you're looking for a faster job landing, then just use third-party recruiters, because they have a list of jobs. They have, they're helping you to get hired, because it's faster this way. So there's no really like what is better. It's whatever fits your situation. Do third party give us benefits? Some companies do, but not all. It's highly unlikely. What percentage does recruiter get? You will never know what percentage does recruiter get. You'll have no idea. Company may be paying $200,000 for your position, but you only getting 60K. You will never know. I mean, roughly, it's probably a good question to ask a recruiter if they want to disclose, but I think they're trying to maybe get like a couple percent or 5%, maybe 10. But I have no clue because I'm not a recruiter. But I mean, I assume it's actually a good question. If you're interested, yeah, you can probably Google it and read. I'm pretty sure there's an answer for that online. All right. 4. Why are you leaving your current position? So, I mean, a lot of times, this is a very generic question. Again, this video works not only for new hires or your first job, but just a general approach on searching for a job, even if you're like a seasoned QA engineer. The most common thing that you're looking for a change. There's not a lot of career advancement in your current career, or you're just looking for a change. And that's what, or you're really interested in the product. You want to get in that specific field of QA. Let's say it's QA that tests medical API, right? You're very interested, or it's a gaming thing, right? And you want to do that. So that's why you're searching. You're just looking for a change. You're interested in the company, you're interested in the product, and that's why you're applying. You have to show your interest. You have to be excited about this thing, right? You have to show it. So why you live in your current position? For the opportunities, and I really like the company, and your company, I really like the product. I would like to work with you, for you. Yeah, someone answers in chat that recruiters will get almost the double of the wages. Yeah, that's insane though. That's crazy. So if you like land the job through a recruiter for 80K, most likely the recruiting agency getting 160. That's insane. Okay. Possible 1-2 behavioral questions. So the behavioral questions like, hey, what do you do if there's a conflict, right? How do you approach solving conflict? And then you say, well, I keep it professional. I go and try to solve this. I try to talk it through to understand other person's position. Still not working out. If it's something that's stopping the testing or release, then I'll just go and discuss with the team or with the management the better way of approaching this. You have to keep a professional environment professional. You have to keep it comfortable for everyone. You have to be friendly. You don't bring your personal stuff to work, especially in IT business. You don't say like, hey, you don't like this bug? Let's fight. It's not how it works. You don't want to fix it? No. So I mean, it's really like a very safe environment, very safe and respectable environment. It's not like a construction work where you like pick up on people and stuff, right? So you have to keep that in mind. It's everyone is within their respectable boundaries and relationship are professional. Okay. Go over your work status. So that's a normal question. They'll ask you, hey, are you authorized to work in the States? And you say yes. One thing I want you all to be conscious about and not do, sometimes you'll get those like recruiting emails, and mark that down somewhere. because that might get you in trouble. You get those recruiter emails that say, hey, fill out this form, like your first name, last name, your social security number, and then your date of birth and your bank account number, your email login and password, and then where do you park your car and stuff like that. I mean, don't respond to those. Don't give out your personal information. Don't give out your social security number until you talked through the company, you went through the interviewing process. So you can say, I'm just not comfortable with it. And if they say, well, I have to put something, so you have like a number assigned in our system, recruiter that do that all the time. You can say, okay, put 333. Now, once you, or whatever number, once you go through the hiring process and you're getting onboarded, then you can provide them your whatever copy of your green card, copy of your social, stuff like that. But initially, like those very first emails, you didn't even talk to the person, and they're asking like all your information, your blood type, and where you're hiding all your money at your home. Don't talk to those people, because most likely you're gonna get scammed. Your social security gonna end up somewhere you don't want it to be. Okay, so, but yes, they will ask you on your work status, and you just say, I'm authorized, whatever. I'm a citizen. I'm not citizen, but I'm authorized to work. I have a job permit, whatever. And then they'll ask you, hey, do you have any questions for me? And typically, what you want to ask about the companies, you want to ask about the technology that they use, you want to ask, make sure you want to ask, what exactly are they looking for? Like, how involved I'm going to be with the team, what kind of testing I'll be doing. Are they looking more of like person that gonna own everything, or are they looking for just addition to the team to cover something that they're not having enough time to cover? Just make sure you get all the questions asked that you want to have answer for. Especially, ask about the company a little bit, what they do and what the company is looking for. It's usually very helpful, even for you, when you will be preparing more for the actual interview with people working for the company. Okay. All right. The story sales pitch. Tell me about yourself. Okay, some questions in chat. I mean, some of them are like really long. I'm not sure I'll be able to even read those or answer right now. Okay, rule of salary. The first person that gives salary loses. Okay, yeah. What I normally do, I'm just, for the third party recruiters, I'm just saying, hey, this is a Glassdoor average for QA position in my area. Like, for example, in Los Angeles, and it's 90K for mid-level QA, or 100K or whatever. And that's what I'm looking for. And then we can start conversation around that. If it's a recruiter or HR that's calling from the company, there's no point for them to negotiate your salary down. You telling them, hey, I can work for 20K, it's not going to do anything for them. Because when you're talking with a recruiter that works inside a company, for the company, not third party, they have a budget. That budget says, we're hiring QA engineer, starting salary, we can give them 120. We're giving them 120. If they ask for more, depending on how good of a fit they are, we can go up to 140 or 130. So you're saying I'm going to work for 80, they don't care. They're going to pay 120 because they have that budgeted. So what I do with the recruiters that work for the company, I just say, hey, I'm very flexible with the salary. It's very uncertain right now, especially with COVID. There's so many different numbers out there. So I really like your product, I really like the company, I would like to work with you. So I normally would say, hey, I want to work with your budget. So what is your range for this position? And most of the time they just tell me, hey, we have 100K for this position. I say, yeah, that works for me. That's it. That's for the recruiters that work for the company, not a third party, or for the HR that works for the company. What do they ask about programming stuff? You're not hired to do programming. You're doing the QA stuff. I wouldn't see how they would be asking programming stuff unless you're going for some automation position. Okay. Um, yeah, scammers evolved quite a bit. Any tips to avoid scammers? Again, no personal information like social security uh, until you actually get to sign in, like documentation or on the job. You went through different interview stages. We heard that they might like us to know some Unix command. I mean, you're not gonna get asked any Unix commands like from recruiter. Don't worry about that. Okay. So most common questions, tell me about yourself. What is your story? Tell me about your previous experience. So you have to remember this story is yours, right? So there's no strict rules. It's only something we can recommend. Um, it's pretty much your sales pitch, and that's why it takes so many tries. You have to figure out how to talk during interviews. That's why you have to go like through multiple applications and multiple conversation until you get to a comfortable level, and you will know at some point what questions they will be asking ahead of time after like the 30 40 calls and conversations. So you might even start writing things down, right? So then, and your answers your questions after the conversation, so next time you have this like somewhere near you and you can just glance and then you'll be comfortable with your replies. Having a long conversation about yourself like over 10 minutes means too long. Normally it's short, maybe 5 minutes. If you start talking about your like childhood, about your, I don't know, how you fight with your brother all the time, how you were kids, and the story when you went to the hospital and so on and so on, and like you talking about yourself for 30 minutes, uh they're just no, sorry, bye. That's gonna end like this. So it's also the question about yourself. Again, it's more of to rule out if this, if this person that you can actually work with, if if you have common sense. It's not about really you and your experience. It's more of a kind of filter to understand if you're a sane person. Right. Don't think recruiters your therapist, and don't tell them your story of your life and your childhood trauma for 3 hours. Don't do that. Couple minutes, very short. uh, you want to adjust for the job. Again, if you're applying for a casino, online casino, gambling, whatever, you can tell, yeah, you have this experience. You like the games, and you always spot the small bugs on your own. It's just, if you're talking about testing mobile, you can say I'm on the phone all the time. I'm doing whatever. I'm in Instagram, Twitter, and I submit bugs as a user all the time. I find them a lot, so I'm very confident with the technology. um yeah, so don't just talk about things that are relevant to this company, to this recruiter. Be relevant, be short, concise, try to be interesting, right? Don't be boring. Try to show that you're excited about the position, you're excited to tell about yourself a little bit, that so the other person thinks, okay, wow, this guy like or this girl there, it's just a really good fit. um you also want to adjust for an interview, right? You just want to know who you're talking with. Uh, if it's an HR person, for example, they're not going to be technical, so don't go in technical details of like log life cycle or how you submit a ticket in Jira, all that stuff. If they have no clue, they don't know, right? So for them, they don't know. If maybe it's a manager or someone on the team, then you can go more into details on how you were creating test cases, how you were finding like interesting bugs, and talk about what kind of bugs you found. Yeah, so you have to adjust your conversation also a little bit. um so again, you can say, if you're talking with a technical person, you can talk about tools. So maybe you are using the developer dev tools console in Chrome to look at things like at elements on your UI testing, stuff like that. um and you can say that you're familiar with maybe ADB, accessing your phone through like terminal, stuff like that, or something that you can mention that's relevant to the job experiences that you have. But again, keep it short, couple sentences. Don't overextend this conversation. All right. It's so that we're 30 minutes, 32. You guys want to take 10 minutes break? All right. I will see you in 10 minutes. Okay, we're back. Can you hear me well? Okay, awesome. All right, so let's talk about numbers, right? So I was showing that you have to apply and send quite a lot of resumes, about 200, right? So this translates into 25 to 35 responses. All your resume places will get you about around 10%, right? Responses. Then that, definitely you're gonna get 20 to 30 phone screenings. So that could be the initial response could be via email, or the phone screening after the response can be with recruiter plus with someone on site. Then you will have technical screening, which might be more questions about the product, more like technical details, what you've been doing. After that, you'll have it down to 3-7 on-site interviews. And right now, I mean, unless you have to do something on site specifically, a lot of the jobs are remote. So it's going to be another Zoom call with a team of people, with one person, or with different people over a period of time. Those 3 scenarios that I talked about. And that will translate into hire. When you follow this approach and you apply a lot and you talk a lot and you kind of go through jobs, figuring things out, what most likely going to end up happening, you will have 2 to 3 offerings by the end of the process, and you will be kind of choosing, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to go with this company? Do I want to test this app, or do I want to test this web page? Do I want to work with this gaming industry company, whatever that might be? So it's very likely we'll have multiple offers by the end of the process, but you should not stop with one offer. I mean, until you actually sign up documents and you're hired. You have to keep going. We're going to go over what kind of technical questions they might ask. Yes, not today, further on in the course. As a manual QA, what they can say for technical questions. So gray box, white box, black box, boundary conditions, how you test something, a particular product, your previous experience, anything that's related to the field, really, for the manual QA. Other criteria that you'd say are most important beyond the highest salary? Criteria important for you personally? I mean, up to you. It's really what you want to do. You want to do a smaller startup, bigger company, slower pace? What kind of technology you want to do? Banking, finance? You want to do mobile apps? You want to do games? You want to do some crazy field? You want to do aerospace? I don't know. I mean, it's just up to you. The criteria. For me personally, I think having a good team that is open, that you have like professional, friendly relationship with everybody. They share knowledge, ability to grow the job, good benefits, market average or decent salary, right? Not like low, but market average is even fine with me if the company has opportunity to grow with the company and the team is nice. If we talk about your skills, what is most important besides like maybe like some technical stuff and the salary that you're going for, is how well you're gonna fit. So soft skills, having a good conversation, and like feeling that you're comfortable with the team and they're comfortable with you. A lot of times, even you have multiple candidates for the position the company has, they'll go with someone less experienced and less technical if that person fits better culturally. If they're nice, if they're good to work with, if they're eager to learn, if they will go with that person. Just because in QA, it's not about, hey, how well you're programming, or do you know this program language? It's not about that at all. You will still have to learn how to test product no matter where you go. It's just the nature of the beast. Any new job in QA, new project, there are a lot of different things you'll still have to be learning. So you need to be able to work with the team effectively and, make sure that you're not ruining somebody else's work experience. So being a team member, being positive, energetic, eager to work, interested in product is more important than your technical skills for the QA. If I live in Los Angeles, am I less likely to get hired by a company in San Francisco if the job is 100% remote? It doesn't matter where you at, as long as you're in the States and have work authorization. If in my area I don't have 200 positions open, like only 15 to 20, is it a problem? So if you have only 15, 20, start searching outside of your area. So you don't exhaust the local opportunities. If you're looking for like a local position, start applying outside of your area where you can practice until you get to the level that okay, I'm actually starting getting like real interviews going outside where I live. And then if you want to work locally, once you're up to your interview game, then you move into the local companies and then you apply to them. You don't want to start immediately with your local positions while you're still kind of getting confident with the interview process, because you're going to exhaust them all out and you will be out of options once you're ready. You might need to wait a couple months or a month until something new appears. So just be aware of that. Actually, if some other state is offering full remote QA position with higher pay than the current area, then I think it would be smart to get the offer with high pay rate. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're getting a better offer somewhere else and it's always 100% remote, why don't you get the higher salary? But people have reasons, right? Some people don't like remote work. Sometimes some people want to visit office sometimes, so they would rather go for a local position. It really just personal. So there's no right answer here. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Technical or hiring manager screening. Tech screening is usually scheduled over the phone, Skype, or Google Hangout. So you have to be ready. You will be on camera. You will be contacted by a member of the QA team, or maybe dev team, or team leader or manager. What is the typical scenario for technical screening? So you will have an intro, again, something they talk about the role. You can ask maybe even at the intro a little bit about the position. Get more details on what technology do they use. Just a regular conversation happening. Same thing. They'll ask the same thing. It's kind of repeating. They'll ask, "Tell me about yourself." It's a very common question. So the same thing you were talking about before, you can talk about that again. So the stuff you tested, the stuff why you would like to work for them, the company, their product, that you're interested in it, that you verified certain e-commerce platforms, that you created bug reports, you worked in Jira, all that stuff, right? So there could be a deep dive into technical part of your current role. So they can ask, what tools do you use? What is the percentage of the tests you do on web versus mobile? Which tools are you using for web? And I mean, mobile, we're covering all this during the bootcamp, right? The tools that we're using, the dev tools, the ADB console, the Jira, everything that we have from the bootcamp is technical, and you can talk about that, what you've been doing. There could be theoretical questions related to the role. So like explain a bug report, or tell me about regression testing, or how would you test this field? Like how do you test the username field? Things like that. What are the parts of the bug report? They can ask you questions like that. there could be questions, more open-ended questions about tools when they ask you, can you talk a little bit more about tools, right? How do you, or even if they have like some, as someone mentioned, basic Linux command, if they have some basic Linux commands on the position, if it's like an embedded system, you might want to do a little refresher. There are like plenty of free stuff that you can pick up online on YouTube and watch basic like Linux commands, and they will ask you, hey, how would you look up an IP address in console? But the things like that, you have to be aware. So you should talk with the recruiter or on the previous or in the job description, it should mention like, hey, this is like, we want to be person will be comfortable with Linux commands. Things like that normally pretty explicitly mentioned. And you should prepare yourself. I mean, you definitely can take a 15, 20 or 30 minutes, like a small refresher video, and look through things and write some things down. If you know that this company is particularly interested in Q engineer that is able to do some basic Linux or Unix commands in the console, right? And then going over your questions. So again, you're over your questions for the technical manager. You can, I mean, to make this conversation pleasant, you can ask them about their experience within the company. How do they like their job? What are they doing? What the products are they working on right now, or his team? So talk a little bit about him, ask him questions or her questions. And then you can ask more, okay, what do you see my role? What I'll be fulfilling, like if I'm hired. So you want to ask those questions. I mean, it's important that you show interest, and it's kind of part of the overall soft skills, right? Do you pay taxes in both states where you live and where you work? In this case, the salary would low after tax. Yeah, I'm not sure how it works actually. I have no clue with the COVID thing. I am full percent. I am 100% remote, but I am 100% remote in the same state. I've heard you pay the taxes only where you work. So technically, and I'm not sure if you live in Florida, where there no state tax, but you work remotely, and it's California, you'll probably still be paying California tax on your salary. But I don't know. Okay, so this is not a good question to ask. Probably you want to ask an accountant on that, or a tax specialist. See a professional for help. Okay. How to answer what's your testing strategy? If they ask them like that, you definitely want to say something. Well, most of the time you just go by the documentation, the test plan that is there. If there's nothing, then you kind of start dissecting, let's say, application by priority and figuring out what is the most important thing to test and should work first. And you can learn that by talking to product owners, managers, from your experience, understanding what customers need from the application. So this is very open-ended question. So there's like tons of answers that will work for that. But generally, documentation, following the documentation testing process, if not available, understanding the application, dissecting it by priority, and making sure that you're working through getting the most important things out first and testing them. Okay. Then we got in-person interview. Okay. So you made it on site. Nowadays, in-person interview is still probably going to be via Zoom on call. So many companies will only invite 2 to 5 candidates to on-site interview. Yeah, that's actually quite typical. You'll have maybe around 5 people going through the on-site interview, and eventually one of them is getting hired. Sometimes company has not just one position, like, or maybe 10 positions. They maybe just bring the whole department up, and they can have like 15 people. Or Apple sometimes, or Google, they hire tons of QAs for their project, like testing their Apple Maps or Google Maps or stuff like that. And then they can have tons of openings where you will have to, I mean, almost anyone who's fit for the job will get hired once they go through this in-person interview, and that could be multiple people, not just one position, just 15 QA engineers. All right. So when you are on an on-site, if there's only just one position available or a couple, you still want to be, at the top of your game in terms of conversations, being ready for the interview, and being nice to talk to, because there are multiple candidates. They will choose, right? They will choose. If the position only there's like two openings, and you have five, they talk to 5 people, they'll have to choose one of them. And a lot of that is just based on kind of overall, I don't know even how to word that properly, but not just your skills, right? But overall, the impression that you leave. And then sometimes they go back to like choosing different people, not the very same day, or maybe they determine out of the list after they look through all the candidates. So if you were remembered and you left the conversation feeling good and they really liked you, they're gonna carry over that feeling, right? And just based on that, they will be determined, okay, we like them. John, Bob, Stacy, Alex, they like this guy, and we're gonna hire him. Most of the interviewers liked him. Okay. So how to prepare to in-person interview. So you want to get familiar with the product. So if it is possible, sometimes product is not there yet, or it might be not public, so you don't have any access, right? A lot of times when they will show you the product during an interview, they'll make you sign the papers that you're not going to disclose anything that you've seen. That's actually quite possible, and I've seen this many times. Let's say you're getting hired to test some app. So once on site, they'll actually show it to you, but before they can do that, you can like play with it, tell them how you will test it. They'll have to sign up some papers. So get familiar with the product if possible. Go on their website, read about their mission, read about what they're all about, what they want to do, how they would want to change the world. What do you know about them, right? Read their reviews on the product if they're selling something and it's their public reviews. So read those to understand some highlights, what people like, what people don't like, and maybe if you have some suggestions if people don't like some, how to test this, make sure it's not reappearing. Prepare for common questions. So again, like common conversations. Don't take things too far when you ask a common question. A lot of common questions are just there to get a common answer. So if someone asks you, hey, what is the difference between great tester and really awesome tester? Like, okay, what is this? Like, this question doesn't make any sense, but it's just a common question and requires a common answer. And you say, well, good tester does the job really good, and awesome tester does really awesome. Maybe they go one step beyond, and they really care about the customers and products, and they look into making sure that they have this customer's perspective on top of the QA perspective. Something like this. Just something trivial and something simple. Don't dig into the question. Don't ask them to repeat it or explain it. I mean, if it's common questions, you just give them a common answer, just to make sure that they're comfortable with it, you're comfortable with it. What do you mean they will ask questions about themselves? Did I say that? When they ask questions about yourself, probably. That's what I meant. No, when I say common question, as an example question, I said, what is the difference between great tester and like really awesome tester. And you have to answer to that. And then don't ask back trying to, hey, this, I don't understand this question. What do you mean by that? This question doesn't make any sense. Don't start arguing. just say something, right? Oh, okay. Okay, what do you mean they will ask question about themselves, part of study the interviewers? Yeah, they might ask. You might get question about, so did you look through our webpage? And you say no. Okay, that's not good. Then they can't follow up. If they say yes, they say, well, what kind of what part of our mission did you remember about our company, or what did you like about our product? They can't really ask that. So you have to be, you have to do a little research on the company. At what point we can ask questions we have regarding their product and services? Normally, at the end of the interview, they will give you time, about 15 minutes to half an hour, to ask questions. And that's actually important, to ask questions. Don't just say, I don't have any questions, and bye. Even if they liked you, you want to show in that part as well that you're asking like interesting questions. What is your future goals? Have you thought about adding more customers, or have you thought adding your app to another platform? Let's say not only Apple, iOS, but also Android. So write like 3 or 4 questions that you'll have somewhere written down beforehand, and that are like good questions that that's something they can speak on, because this also a highlight after the interview, after the fact, when they discuss you, they can say, okay, maybe he didn't answer some technical questions, but in the end, he asked really good questions about the product, and I really like that. So this actually can impact overall outcome. Okay, so we have it here. Prepare your questions. So this shows that you're interested. You always will be ready to feel an awkward silence if interview doesn't know what to ask. Yeah, and I mean, and sometimes there's no and dedicated time at the end that they want to have you asking questions. Normally there will be, but sometimes it's just during the interview they might say, hey, do you have any questions for us? And so it could be like in the middle, or is everything clear about what I just said? So just be prepared that you might have something already written down, and you don't get like caught off guard. Study the interviewers. Before interview, you likely get a list of your interviewers. Check their LinkedIn, find out their title, job responsibilities, experience, think about the questions they will be interested in asking you, and prepare the answers. I mean, this is definitely going one step ahead of everyone. Not a lot of people doing this. But if you know who you will be asked, who is on the team, just go to the company LinkedIn, go through the employees, see what maybe they're interested in, see about what are they working on in the company, if they have any information publicly available, just to kind of, and it also not many, maybe not so much about like asking them questions, but it also will make you more comfortable in terms of talking to the people, because you will know them a little bit already beforehand, right? You're not going to be as nervous as if you had no clue who's interviewing you. Print out enough resumes. So I don't think right now it's actually something that is going to be part of the interviewing process if it's all online. But if you're called on site, you can print 3-4 copies and take them with you if there will be multiple people at the same time, especially looking. You can just, normally they will do it themselves, but if you just have it handy, don't give it out until they, if you see they don't have anything, then you can give it out. Most likely they'll print it out. But just in case, it's going to show your like extra dedication. But again, with the COVID and everything, I don't think that's an issue anymore. Nobody prints anything. Yeah. All right. Because everything's online, right? Some typical questions on the interview. What would you do if you created a bug report and the developer tells you they cannot reproduce it? Okay, that's very often being asked. And you can say, okay, I can make sure that I can reproduce. I can talk to the developer and see if I can help them to reproduce that. So you want to make sure that this bug is actually valid, even though you verified it before. Maybe something changed. Maybe there's something different in his environment. So your response would be, I'll investigate, talk with the developer, and try to figure out why he's not able to reproduce it. Yeah, I'll help him to reproduce it if it's possible, or maybe adjust the bug if maybe some environment differences are not showing this bug anymore. So for example, he has a different Chrome version, web browser version. But you did mention the browser version in your bug in the environment, but you just use a different one and it's not showing. So that could be a thing. But yeah, you want to have a conversation. You want to try to make sure this issue is still valid on your machine and see if you can help the developer reproduce it. Make sure everything that he is doing is according to your bug report. If you find a bug and developer says it is as designed, not a bug, what would you do? Yeah, I would again start with a conversation with the developer why they think it's not an issue. I would make sure it is recorded somewhere in the ticket, like in the comment section. And I would probably just tag product owner just as a part of a conversation, CC them saying, hey, we're working with developer. He doesn't think this is actually a problem. This is as designed. And if the product owner agrees, that's fine. Just let it go. If they say, well, no, we actually need to fix it, it is an issue, then developer most likely will fix it because he essentially thought it's not an issue, but appeared to be it is. But you kind of discover those things through the conversation with people, right? How would you test the toaster, bottle, can, whatever, just really anything? How do you test this banana, or how do you test this? I don't know, balloon, whatever. You want to start talking about doing research. You want to start talking about requirements. Are there any? If they say no, there's no documentation, no requirements, then you can start talking about, okay, I'll do some research. I'm pretty sure other companies testing similar products, I can get some data on how they tested. Also, any product out there has standards, even the pan, a toaster, there are actual manufacturing standards for those and how they should perform, what they should do. So you can rely partially on those. And then you will create, you can start with ad hoc testing, like some just typical user action. What would you do? Put a toaster, unplug it while it's running, stuff like that. And then you can start writing out test cases, laying out like positive scenarios, some negative scenarios, and how it performs under those. So from having no requirements to explore testing, looking up competitors and similar products, how they've been testing, to building out your own set of tests, positive and negative tests for that product. And it really, product can be anything, right? It could be coffee maker, it can be juicer, whatever, really. So, but if you can explain the process, you don't have to go in details with the specific test cases. You can name a couple, but overall the process. They just want to know how do you think, can you think as a tester, and how you approach figuring things out when there's no information available. What is Q3? Question 3. How would you test the toaster bottle? I just answered that, right? Did you listen? Okay, so the point is you start asking for the requirement documentation. If they don't have any, and then most likely will say that there's none, you'll just look how a similar product's being verified. You'll do your research online, right? You need to understand who is the customer also. Plus, you can talk with product owner. What do they want from the product? What are the most critical things? So you kind of start laying out this path from not having anything to having a set of tests. Then you start some exploratory testing. Then you start writing things down. You're doing like positive and negative testing. If it's a pen, you can click and click it. If it can write or it can write. What if you dip it in water by the requirements? Is it expected to write after it's being wet or not? So there, you can, those questions are just like common sense, right? It's, you can come up with hundreds of different weird examples or weird things to test. But the overall approach to that is getting from a point where you don't have anything to a certain plan where you can start verifying it. So in order to get there, you need to understand similarities with other products, do research, talk with the product owner, what are the most critical things to test, and start building out your test plan accordingly with like positive and negative scenarios. Does that make sense? It can be literally anything. They can ask you, how do you test a golf ball? Okay, golf ball. Oh wow, you know, how do I test it? But it doesn't matter. You just say the same thing about learning the product, talking to product owner, doing some research, coming up with positive, negative test cases, looking some requirements for manufacturing standards for that thing. It's all the same. It applies to anything. Yeah, it's really to see your approach to figuring out how do you solve problem as a QA engineer when there's no like documentations or requirements. What do you do? And if your answer is like, okay, how do you test the pen? I'm gonna throw it in fire and see if it burns. That's my negative test case. Like, okay, nope, this guy's crazy. Bye. Smoke test. Throw it in fire. Yeah. Nope. 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 What would you do once you found a bug, right? Once you found a bug, you record the steps, you make sure it's reproducible on other environments or not reproducible on other environments. You mark down the actual environment, you take the logs, you take the screenshots, the video, you put the steps to reproduce, you open the bug with actual expected results. If it's like really bad thing, something's crashing, not working, like a critical issue, then you go and talk to your supervisor and manager saying, hey, I found this thing and it actually, puts our microwave on fire or something like that. So something crazy is happening. But other than that, you just open the bug, put all the steps reproduce, make sure it's reproducible, pull all the logs, pull the environment, and that's it. You just follow the process. If it gets assigned to someone, fine. If it just gets back to like a backlog and sits there until it's triaged, looked by other team members, and its priority severely determined, it just sits there. So there's a process, and each company has a little bit of a different process. But the most important thing to say here, if you found a bug, make sure it's reproducible and record all the steps to reproduce it and get the logs. So there's a lot of it, all the information available on the bug when another person needs to look at it, or even you goes back to it, make sure that you have all the information so you can easily reproduce the bug. How can the tester be sure that a bug has been fixed? So you'll do some testing after the fix. You will verify on the environments that you mentioned it's still fixed. You'll do some regression testing with other test cases around this, that nothing else was broken. So you're pretty much making sure that it is working as expected. The actual results now is returning what they're supposed to. Expected results, they match, right? And there's nothing else no other regression happened with this fix. Nothing else got broken. So, for example, like, you were testing the application doesn't crash anymore on login. Well, it doesn't crash, but now actually login will allow you log in without a password. Well, okay, is that really a fix? I don't think so. So you have to do some regression test and verification of the functionality and just overall how the app is working after the fix, with the fix. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's a very common question. It's been asked all the time. I ask this question. There's really no answer to this. It's one of those common questions. Nobody knows where you're going to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in a year. life is unpredictable. But you don't want to say that because it's a common question and they want a common answer. So when someone's asking you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You can see, well, I see myself as a QA specialist working on this product. It's really nice, as a strong team member that brings value to the team, helps customer get awesome product without bugs or less bugs. And I see myself growing with the company, becoming a better and better professional. That's it. That's so simple. There's no complex thing. Don't tell them that you gonna buy a house in Miami and rent it out and become a millionaire or something like that. I mean, maybe you will, but it's not the point of the question. You're there to deliver value. 5 years you've seen doing just that. Some people say I want to be a manager, and sometimes it's a good answer, sometimes not. I prefer more generic, like delivering value and growing with the company, because maybe there's a manager sitting there and like he doesn't want to lose his job in 5 years. He's comfortable where he is, and you're sitting there saying, "I'm going to be a manager." So you technically tell him, "Hey, I'm going to fire you, buddy." So I don't know if that's a good answer. I just say something more generic. Why did you choose to become a QA engineer? This is also like a common thing, common question that requires common answer. You just say, "Hey, I've always been doing a little bit of testing. I used to find a lot of bugs in games that I play, or the products that I use, and I would report them online. And I enjoy the process. And at some point, I just say, wow, there's a job like that you can do doing this, and I really like doing it. So it's kind of hit me that I decided to switch from what I was doing and been happy ever since." Why are you leaving your current company? Again, a very generic question. You need a generic answer. Like, don't tell them that your boss is beating you or something like that. No, it's not about that. Just tell them that I feel like there's no more growth opportunities. The place is kind of, I feel like I'm stuck. They're not, nothing's happening for me, and I want to learn more. Want to grow more as a QA specialist. I want to learn more new technologies. They're still using like older stuff. They don't want to change. So I'm looking for a change. That's it. Or some people can be honest and say, "Hey, I have a contract that is expiring in 2 months, 3 months. So I already started looking for something else." That's also a possibility. Yeah. But don't say something like that. "Oh, I hate everyone at that place. They all suck. I don't want to go there anymore. Like this job is terrible." Because like they will see your attitude. They're not gonna hire you. They're like, "This guy hates job and QA and people, and he's there for the money, and we're not gonna hire him." What if we're doing career change? How can we address this question? Yeah, same thing. Doesn't matter. I'm doing a career change. I really like QA. You can be honest about it. I mean, why not? The most common thing that you can say, again, my previous position not providing enough opportunities for me. I was trying, I was talking, but we're just like that. And I feel like I want to learn more stuff, new technologies. I like this field. I like your product. That's why I'm applying. I would like to be with you guys. You guys are great. That's it. Common question, common answer. Don't tell them that you hate your boss or anything like. Don't. Just don't. Um, what can you bring to the company? You can say I can bring my Q experience. I can bring value. I definitely enjoy the product. I understand the responsibility that comes with testing, because on the other end, their customers, real people that using the product, and maybe this online gambling casino, my grandma always plays that, and I'll be testing it. Not like that. It's just a joke. But the point of it is there are real people behind it, and maybe your parents, your brothers or sister, they might be using the product. So you're bringing that value and making sure that the product has less bugs. Going to be a good answer. What is your strengths? What is your weaknesses? This is also like kind of open-ended question. You can say my strengths is there. I pay a lot of attention. There's things that you put on the details. I'm a detail-oriented, pay a lot of attention to details, and the really, can be very determined to find the root cause. You can start like listing those strengths, and then there's a weakness. Say, well, sometimes that kind of brings me to not easy to let go. I'm gonna debug and try to find out what's the issue past the point that some people might give up. So you kind of representing your strengths as a weakness. So you're so dedicated that you're gonna work extra hard. That's kind of like, okay, maybe not no life work balance here, but is that really a weakness? If you consider it to be, okay, fine, they'll take it. Would testing gambling site be bad if you have a gambling problem? So I always wondered that myself, actually. And when I was applying for the casinos positions, but they never asked this, so I never told. I never told them. So it all went fine. I got an offer, but I got another position instead. I got into another company that offered more, but maybe they will ask. I don't know. But I think that if you're gonna work in the industry, there are a lot of limitations of what you can do. You're gonna sign a lot of papers. So I think if you're going into gambling, you can forget about like going to play in this casino, so because you're gonna know a lot of stuff about it. Uh, all right. What will you do in case of personal conflict? Again, no fighting. A very, very common question that requires very generic answer. You just say, I'll talk to the person, try to figure out how we can solve this together, how we can work on this. And if it's like related to some fix or a feature, we have like different opinions, and we can't agree on something we talked about it and still there's no progress, then I'll talk to just my management, say, hey, I think this is how it should be done. This should be fixed. The developer thinks this is not a bug, it's a feature, and I'll just bring it up. And that's it. End of conversation. So it's again to see if you're, how you're going to behave in the, because there's always something happening that, you're not happy with something that was done and you need to solve this, how you're going to approach that. All right. So we have 5 minutes left. Any questions? Any feedback? How do you guys feel? You feel that you're ready now or getting more and more prepared? For question 7, can I say because I'm searching for a remote position? Yes, but you don't have to. I mean, you can say it, but you still need to emphasize that you like the company and product. You can't just say, I mean, I'm looking for remote. It's like, I don't like my job anymore. I hate my boss. It's not the same level, but still saying I'm looking for the opportunities and I would like it to be remote and I really like your product, then it's a good answer. Just saying I'm looking for remote. Well, okay, there's so many remote jobs out there. Why us? You have to be interested in the company and the product. I'm older person. This is something that I worry about. US law doesn't allow to discriminate based on the age, so you shouldn't be worried about that at all. Yeah, you have a lot of experience. Definitely, I would emphasize on that. Plus, again, there's so many products, so many different products, and they're products that gonna fit your age group that you might want to test and work on. So not everything is done for for generic population. Some specific products done for specific age groups. and those have to be tested as well. Anything that has code has to be tested. Your car, like new Honda, has hundreds and millions of lines of code. Like any new generic car that came out, not even Tesla, they all are computers now. Your coffee maker, your microwave, your monitor, your whatever you has code has to be tested. What we type in search when looking for jobs? This will be part of another video, but you can type QA engineer, software quality assurance, software tester, UI tester, manual tester. If developer block you to continue testing further, then developers say they did not block you. Let's say API problems, you can hardly show the evidence. How can you solve this conflict and get unblocked so that you continue testing further? If something like that happens, someone like blocks you and prevents you from testing, just to address it with the management saying, hey, I was trying to test it, but I don't have no more access. That's it. Just have this conversation. Make sure all the conversation like that, where you're trying to figure things out and something's preventing you, there's some sort of conflict happening. Make sure that they're public and they're professional, they're open, that everyone sees it, right? A lot of communication right now done in Slack, in chats, and most of those chats are public. You can talk about that there. Some other companies still like using emails and stuff. Okay, you can always see like your manager, his manager, or both of them when we having this conversation. All right, guys. So I think we will still have another lesson together. We will be learning SQL together. So I'll see you then. Thank you so much for tonight. Hopefully you had a great time, and have a good night. Bye.